Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the introduction. Also, thank you very much to the organizing committee and Dr. Paul Savidos for his kind invitation. I've been tasked to talk to you about overlapping sphincteroplasty this morning. What are the tips and tricks? I have no disclosures. Overlapping sphincteroplasty is the established technique to reconstruct symptomatic traumatic disruption of the anal sphincters. As you have heard earlier, the most common cause is of course obstetric injury, but it can also result from blunt or penetrating trauma, or sometimes even surgical procedures such as fistula operations. The first and foremost, the first step is always to evaluate the patient. We need to define the target in terms of the sphincter defect, and we do this routinely through preoperative ultrasound. The next step, of course, is to find the divided ends of the muscle and mobilize it, and then we do the overlapping repair, and of course, a few months later, when the patient has recovered, we can confirm the continuity or the restored wrap. Our patient this morning is a 28-year-old woman, gravida 2, para 2, both vaginal deliveries, presenting with worsening fecal incontinence after the second delivery. As you can see on the ultrasound, there is an anterior external anal sphincter defect from 10 to 2 o'clock. The internal anal sphincters is retracted a little bit more laterally from 9 to 3 o'clock, and of course the mean perineal body muscle thickness is only at 6.2 millimeters. The right view shows you the transvaginal ultrasound image. You can see that the sphincter muscle is deficient anteriorly. So we go to the video. The patient can be in the lithotomy or in the prone jackknife, but the incision is through a transperineal approach. The incision is made from 10 to 2 o'clock, after which I routinely use a Lone Star retractor, which is very good for exposure. I use dilute adrenaline solution, 1 in 100,000, and I try to inject or infiltrate the space between the vagina and the anal-rectal complex. The fluid in this plane will help you dissect a little bit easier and also reduce the amount of bleeding. If you stray a little bit too anteriorly, you will encounter a lot of vaginal bleeding, but more importantly, if you stray posteriorly, then you will breach the rectum. So I will tend to err more on the side of the vagina, which is usually more forgiving. After you have created the space or restored the space, then the task remains to mobilize the ends of the sphincter muscles, which has been retracted. Of course, my trick is not to find the muscle, but to divide or dissect into the fat around the muscle. Usually the divided ends are a little bit untidy, a little bit jagged, so usually I use a tool PDS suture to tidy up the ends so that it's easier to overlap and suture it down nicely. So with the overlap, you tend to stitch the lateral aspect of one side to the medial aspect of the opposite, and then I will place the sutures first, and I'll put 3 sutures on each side. After the sutures are placed, then you can always check the wrap by doing a digital rectal exam to make sure that it is not too tight. It has to be just snug. So after you place the sutures, then what remains is to knot it down eventually. As you are dissecting around the area, you can always adjust the hooks of the Lone Star retractor to give you better exposure. and I try to refrain from using too much cautery. So this is the well-placed overlap, and then I will knock down the sutures sequentially. So PDS is slippery. I would throw at least 6 to 8 throws for each time. And this is the final wrap of the sutures in place. So now that you have reconstructed the perineal body, the distance between the vagina and the anus is a little bit further, so it's impossible to close it completely without tension. 3 months later, this is the patient's incontinence scores. You should try and score them before and after surgery, and you can see the Wexner score is pretty good at 1 out of 20. Endoanal ultrasound will show you the restored perineal body. You can see the overlap with the figure of 6 configuration. So what are the results? Well, the literature seems to suggest that the earlier gains that you get often erodes with time. There's some element of attrition. Overall, the success rate is between 60 to 85%, but over a period of 5 to 10 years, there's some attrition, about 20 to 30 percentage points. Some supposed drivers of this late decline can be due to limited muscle reserve, neuromuscular aging. It could be also what we call new persistent loading or repeat trauma, like another vaginal delivery. And of course, one must understand that continence is always multifactorial. And what we are doing is only to repair the external sphincter muscle. So we repair just to restore the anatomy, but the final continence depends on the whole incontinence neuromuscular system. This is a longer 10-year result. You can see in this series of 120 patients, about 65% have good results after initial surgery. Then of course 35% requires additional treatment such as biofeedback, posterior tibial nerve stimulation, SNS, or even a repeat repair if it is disrupted, and ultimately the good outcome has been about 93%. So what are the tips and tricks? We should prepare the patient, not just the sphincter. We understand the injury, take a good history, try to find out what's the etiology, examine the patient for scars, assess the perineal body, digital rectal exam to assess the resting tone and the voluntary squeeze. Establish a baseline. You can use the incontinence scores by Wexner or Wazy and use the same instrument and follow up. And of course, a fecal incontinence quality of life scale is always helpful. We define the repair target through imaging. Ultrasound is very useful. And of course, anal manometry will give you a more accurate baseline measurement. Improvement, we have to counsel our patients in terms of informed consent, tell them that improvement is very possible, but perfect continence is still not guaranteed, and the function may deteriorate with time. So, and when we do the repair, of course, if you have a fresh injury, anatomical repair is easily achieved by layers, but in patients with delayed presentation, overlap for repair is preferred. Where feasible, not always possible, you can try and repair the internal anal sphincter defect separately, and I routinely use a mechanical bowel prep to make sure that the rectum is clean and empty. Exposure is very important. I've shown you how I use adrenaline to infiltrate the tissue planes to help you dissect with less bleeding. And then, of course, I use the Lone Star retractor, which can be adjusted sequentially for better exposure. You mobilize only enough for a tension-free overlap. Avoid using too much cautery, or avoid devascularizing the muscle or denervating the muscle. Avoid too much tension in both the muscle and skin when you repair. To protect the early healing, I routinely use antibiotics for 1 week post-op. It's quite painful, so a urinary catheter for 2 to 3 days, and I do what we call a medical colostomy by giving a patient a liquid diet for at least 1 week so as to minimize early stooling and also avoiding constipation. For follow-up, I routinely see them on a weekly basis just to take a look and address for any wound infection, any dehiscence or deterioration. A durable repair is tension-free, well vascularized, and preferably we protect it during early healing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Charles, someone I consider a Sifu to me. All right, moving on to the next person would be Dr. Andres Kaiser, someone I met when I